Jon Wilner had a story on Friday about the Pac-12 and money that had been paid to the conference that I would think had been distributed, and then all of a sudden an audit kind of shows there's a financial mess, and he now joins us from the Pac-12 Hotline on 365 Sports. Jon, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate your comments as well about what we do every day. So how long had you been working on that story? Did that come out of the blue?
Yeah. I don't know exactly how long from the time that I found out about it till when it was published, but it was not something that I had been working on for weeks, put it that way.
Jon, so in a nutshell, Pac-12 executives were told of an overpayment, correct, and then let it keep occurring and never told what is supposedly or reportedly Comcast about this. How does this even go with just so few people knowing about it? And how did Comcast not pick up on it without the Pac-12 telling them about it?
Well, that's one of the mysteries about this whole thing. The Pac-12, in the spring of 2017, the Pac-12 ordered up an audit from an outside firm of its contract and payments with the distributor. And 6 months later, the results came in and showed that the distributor was paying more than it should have. A couple of executives were told, and they did not tell the proper channels. I don't know exactly who they told, whether former Commissioner Larry Scott was told about it and did nothing, or whether it was kept from him. I honestly don't know the answer to that. And I also don't know how Comcast wasn't told or didn't find out about the results of the audit. We also don't know exactly how long it went on. These overpayments went on. It could have been for 6 or 8 years. It could have been for just a few years. There's a lot that still has not been made public by the conference.
Jon, as best you know, once this was found out after that audit, what was the reaction within the Pac-12? I mean, obviously they moved to fire those involved, but I mean, just the realization of what had been occurring, what was, from your understanding, the realization within the Pac-12 offices?
Well, I think they were not happy at all and moved quickly on that front. It all happened under Larry Scott's tenure. The current commissioner, George Kliavkoff, came in basically a year and a half ago, and according to the conference, he was not made aware of it until October, when Comcast filed a claim against the Pac-12. And at that point, the Pac-12, hired an outside law firm to conduct an investigation. That took a couple of months, and then they got the results back, and a week later they fired the executives. But I think that they were probably very surprised and quite disheartened, because the conference probably is going to be on the hook for reimbursing Comcast whatever it is. Now, the claim is for $50 million, but the way these things go, Comcast probably shot for the moon a little bit in that regard. So it could be less than 50, but the schools will be on the hook for that.
Jon, has this had in any way any impact whatsoever on the TV deal going forward?
I don't think so. This is entirely a Pac-12 networks situation. It does not involve Fox or ESPN. They don't have distribution contracts with the Pac-12 networks, and those are the companies, among others, that are involved in the negotiations. Plus, my guess is that they didn't just find out about this late last week. The Pac-12 probably clued them in some regard to the fact that this was going on, so it wasn't going to be a shock. I mean, it's not good, but to the extent that there is a material impact on the valuation of the Pac-12 or the willingness of these other media companies to do business with the Pac-12, my guess is it's not going to be a huge issue.
Would it have maybe slowed it down just on the Pac-12's functionality of it, in that, if you look at the timeline here in October, George Kliavkov is saying, like, hey, we expect the TV deal to get done soon. Then maybe this happens, and they've got to get these kind of ducks in a row before they move on with their media partners so that they can, as a conference, know, like, this is how much we get out of the Pac-12 network legitimately. This is how much that we are negotiating out for the other media partners as well.
I mean, it could have had a role in slowing things down, either, because the Pac-12 thought that was the right thing to do, or if the partners wanted to slow it down, because the Pac-12 networks are part of the negotiations, right? I mean, somebody is likely to either buy that content or buy the Pac-12 networks and all their technology. So it's certainly possible that some of the entities involved in the media rights negotiations wanted to see what happened with the investigation into the overpayments. But I'm not 100% sure of that. I know one of the main delays was they were waiting for the University of California Regents to make a definitive ruling on UCLA's status. That was the thing that was holding it up the most.
John, how much does the departure of Kevin Warren in the Big Ten, how do you feel like that has an impact on sort of just the feel around the conference when it comes to, let's say what the last couple of years have been like, a lot of uneasiness, a lot of wondering about what's going on exactly? Does that settle down now because of the change in the Big Ten?
I think it turns down the public heat a little bit, both out here and nationally in terms of realignment. I don't think it's any secret that Kevin Warren really was the main driver of additional Big Ten expansion to get to, 20 teams, 24 teams, whatever you want to call it. And now that he's gone, I think you kind of don't have that person pushing it forward. At the same time, there's no indication to me that the Big Ten presidents were interested in expanding anytime soon, or the Big Ten's TV partners were interested in expanding anytime soon. So I think that the public perception of where the Big Ten was further along than what the reality was internally, because Kevin Warren on multiple occasions has talked publicly about additional expansion. I just don't think behind the scenes the rest of the Big Ten was out there with him.
I followed your timeline. I think you also may have had the story about that the timeline, the clock is ticking on the TV deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that this is a strange situation because of so much that happened in the last 6 to 7, 8 months in college football and athletics. Is this even much longer, John, than you could have ever anticipated?
I thought that the honest answer is I thought that they were going to get this thing done in December. That would have been, basically 6 months, 5, 6 months, which, folks need to understand, it's easier to do a TV deal if you are basically just renewing with the same networks, like the Big 12 did, right? If you're bringing in new partners to the negotiations and you are reconfiguring your TV inventory, it takes longer. I mean, the Big 10 took, 6, 7 months. So I figured the Pac-12 would take through the fall into December. And then once the UCLA situation was solved, I was expecting that they were going to announce a deal, right in the week or two before Christmas, and was surprised when they said, no, we're taking our time. It's going to go into the new year. I think they got to get moving on it.
Do you think that it has morphed from what they initially thought it was going to be as far as the partners and maybe more streaming than you thought? Or is that just the fan panic mode? I don't know, panic mode, but theory on why it's taken so long that most of this might be on Amazon or something like that?
I'm not really sure why it's taken that long, or taken this long. I have to imagine that when they set out for this whole thing, back in July, that they knew then that the most likely outcome was that they were not going to just redo their deals with Fox and ESPN, that it wasn't going to just take a month or 2 months to renew with the same inventory packages. But I don't know that they necessarily thought it was going to take this long. And I have to think that even with Amazon and Apple being part of it, that the conference folks in the conference probably thought it would be done by now.
The part about the NFL now that's been streaming on Thursday, the story is at least they get those games in the home market. That's not going to happen with the Pac-12, will it? If that, in fact, whatever they do with them?
I'm not sure how they're going to do it. Whether Amazon plans to have games, home market only, national, I really have no idea, because Amazon has never done anything like college sports, college football. So, and there's a lot about the NFL, right, that doesn't apply to any other sport in America. And that Thursday night TV package, I think, is part of it. One mistake I think people are making is, it's going to be different. The Pac-12 is not going to get the same kind of response from Amazon, the distribution, the money. I mean, it's all going to be completely different, because Amazon is new to this too. And whether they get a big package of games from the Pac-12 or just a sliver, I don't know. But I am pretty sure that Amazon will be involved in some form.
Will you be the happiest, not man ever, but when this gets done, no matter what it is, wouldn't it? Can you sleep better?
Yeah, it has taken a long time. It's been a very busy 6 months, 7 months, because, I'm trying to write about the Pac-12 like normal, the stuff on the field, the stuff on the court, recruiting, all those kind of things. And then you have this giant issue, right, hanging over everything, this existential crisis that I feel compelled to cover on a full-time basis as well. So it has been the last 6 months have been kind of double the workload. So yes, I will definitely be happy however it ends, when it ends. And hopefully, I think it's going to be in the first quarter of this year. I can't imagine it's going to go into April.
And John, in terms of on the field, not a bad year for the Pac overall, huh? Especially when you start to look towards next year and all the quarterbacks that are returning or moving into the league. Do you feel kind of already a sense of a little bit of buzz and excitement over, what's kind of in store for this league as a football, group?
Oh, yeah. It's the anticipation for next year is, much, much higher than it has been for any Pac-12 season in a long time, right? They finished with 6 teams, I think it was, in the selection committee rankings. And, there's a good chance they'll start next season with 6 in the AP poll. And then you throw in the Deion Sanders factor. And there's a lot of interesting stories. And I think the conference is as well positioned competitively as it has been in a long time.
John, thank you very much. Appreciate your time as always. Great to have you on the show. Jon Wilner, Pac-12 Hotline, also the San Jose Mercury News with us, and has been